And we're live. Brian, why are you so salty, man?
I might be a little naive, but I believe I should be in the top 75.
Oh, top 75 what? YouTube shows?
Doesn't matter. Good afternoon, good morning, good evening, ladies and gentlemen, wherever you are, whatever time it is for you right now. Just know that you are locked in onto the point with
Skip.
and the king. You guys go down there, click subscribe, click like, leave some juicy comments because today it's going to be juicy because this is the juiciest comment guy. The mouth of the north, the one and only Andrew Reece from the Reece Report. How are you doing today, brother?
I'm all right, but I'm not happy.
Wow.
And that's not a good thing. Well, maybe it is for the show, but not,
I'm going to want to hear that in a second. So I have a question for you, Andrew Reece. Let's just take the meat off the bones, okay? The Raptors right now are currently 1-3. Why are they not 3-1? Is it the offense, defense, players, coaching? What is it?
I'm coming home. I'm coming home. Tell the world I'm coming home. All the pain of yesterday coming back from Tampa Bay.
Nice.
That's all I got to say about that. We're 0-3 at home. Fred VanVleet, shut up. Don't tell me that it's Tampa Bay that's the problem. When your team shoots 40% from the field in 4 games, it's not the home court that's the problem. It's you shooting 36% just like you did last year. To answer your question, Brian, it's the offense. It's horrific. Now, I had my concerns about the offense, but I had some hope that OG could carry us. Skip looks good right now, okay? But I knew that we'd have struggles in the half court. What I didn't think of was that we were going to be the worst three-point shooting team in the NBA. I didn't think that we'd be the worst in the paint offensive team. I didn't think that we'd be 25th in offense. I didn't think that we'd be a 30% three-point shooting team. And I didn't think we'd be 28th in the NBA in assists at 20 a game, considering we had Scott Barnes and, some other parts that could pass the ball. I thought there'd be a lot more ball movement in this offense because it's not three-point heavy. And we have a long lineup, so you want to move the ball around, you want to get guys in the post, and you want to try to get layups and fouls. Now, we have gotten a fair amount of fouls, and we've shot 80%, which is a positive. But when you're the worst shooting team in the NBA, guess what you're going to lead in? Offensive rebounding. How about that? We lead the league in offensive rebound by 2 full rebounds. That's not a good thing, though. We got our ass kicked in 3 straight games. And by the way, I don't want to hear about how close the Bulls game was. We were down by 20 in the 4th. It was ugly. DeMar DeRozan was laughing at us on the bench. Okay? All the starters other than Scott Barnes shot under 40%. You're not going to win many basketball games when that happens. So I've said my piece for now. There has to be more ball movement. Nick Nurse, people got on me for giving Nick Nurse an F. He deserves an F in the first 4 games of this season. His rotation has been brutal. His starting lineup has been brutal. His strategy has been brutal. Now, I want to make sure that the players get a lot of the blame here, but when you have a chance to tie the game and you do the exact same thing you've done for the last 2 years straight, an ISO one-on-one dribble play where a guy takes a contested shot, I'm going to get irritated at the coach. So we're 1-3 because of the offense, we're 1-3 because of the coaching, and we're 1-3 because of some of the worst shooting I have ever seen in a 4-game stretch offensively as a Toronto Raptor team as I've seen. So that's my piece for now, but let me hand it over to Skip so he can tell me some positives maybe.
No, Skip, you know what? What I wanted to ask Skip is, Skip, where is the defense going with the Toronto Raptors? Like, with their turnovers, steals. Like, they're not all really there. Like, what do you think happened to the Toronto Raptors defense right now? The offense is a different story, but the Toronto Raptors defense
Well, I
so
mean,
far in these first 4 games.
you can't really talk about the Raptors without talking about the offense, because the offense has been absolutely atrocious. The one thing I'll say about that is that it's only been 4 games. That's a really small sample size. But what we should be realizing at this point is, small sample size or not, like, this is who the Raptors are. They're a team that can't score. That's their Achilles heel, is that they can't put the ball in the basket, which you can do a lot of other things right. Like, that's a pretty big Achilles heel. Like, they're 29th in the league in field goal percentage. That's not great, and that's not that surprising either. But what this team does and what this team lives on is possessions, turnovers, steals, whatever they can do to muck up the game, to make the game as janky and messy and greasy as possible. I'll tell you, I flicked over to Lakers Grizzlies the other night, and I was watching John Morant and Carmelo Anthony go at each other, and I was like, this looks nothing like a Raptors game. The Raptors don't play this game. Like, it was kind of fun to watch, like, beautiful basketball for a minute, because I'm like, I forgot what that looks like, because that's not what the Raptors do. The Raptors, I think what we have to accept this year is we're going to be kind of like, remember those Heat teams of, like, maybe 3-4 years ago, kind of when Dwayne Wade was at the end of his career, maybe after he retired. They were kind of bad for a couple of years, but every time you played them, it was like, man, that game was messy. That game was greasy. That game was like, it was a pain in the ass to play that team. And that's who the Raptors are. They're the team. They're not going to win a lot of games because they're not going to put the ball in the basket, but they're going to be a pain in the ass to play against. And I think we saw, even in the Chicago game, we saw Jack Armstrong was talking about it on the broadcast. Like, they only had 3 turnovers forced in the first 3 quarters, and it wasn't a competitive game. They started forcing turnovers in the 4th, and they got right back in that game. And that's the Raptors' recipe for success. There is no second option. There is no, until Pascal Siakam walks through that door, there's nobody on this team who can create offense in the half court. Nobody. Not Van Vliet, not OG Anunoby, whatever certain people who've come on this show may have said in the past. Not a creator. Scottie Barnes might get there, but he's in his 4th NBA game as of yesterday, so he's not there yet, and he's got a lot of turnovers as well. So the reality is, the Raptors are a pretty good defensive team. If you look, I mean, like I said, small sample size, but if you look at their overall stats, I think we're 24th in offensive rating and 7th in defensive rating. And like you said, they're 1st in rebounds. But they're 6th in turnovers, I believe. Is it 6th in turnovers?
Yep.
6th in turnover percentage.
17.0.
And 5th in fast break points per game. So that's clearly the recipe for success, and that's where they thrive. No, that's no surprise at this point. And they're 8th in the league in field goal percentage against. So they do a decent job of guarding. They do get up on guys. There are going to be some lapses. I don't think the defense is quite where it needs to be if they want to be a real competitive team. But for now, that's all we got. And I gotta say, like, this isn't a very good team. I mean, it's okay. Yeah. It's okay. Like, we're 3 years off a championship. We've lost a lot of those players. We're very young. I still think this team can get up to mediocre. Like we were saying, maybe 42 wins, 43 wins. That's not out of the question. 4 games, tough to say. But I mean, you asked if 3-1, if 1 and 3 should be 3-1. And I think the answer is no, not at all, because they did not have control of any of those games that they lost. Sure, they got back into the Bulls game, but how many times over the last 6 or 7 years that the Raptors are good, how many times did we see them take a lead into the 4th quarter and some crappy team would put together a little bit of a run and you'd be like, oh, this is getting a little too close for comfort. And then they'd be there at the end, they'd make free throws and they'd win the game. And it was never competitive. We're that other team now. We're that sad sack team that comes in and gets excited because we made it close at the end. Now that might be a little harsh. That might be a little harsh because we don't know exactly what this team is yet, but they're young. And so far, I think that's kind of what we're looking at right now.
Brian, I just want to say that, like, the reason why the Raptors look so bad offensively is because they don't move the basketball. Like, if you look at this team, like it's one-on-one basketball. It's jacking up threes.
A lot of ISO plays.
Like a lot of ISO. They're just jacking up threes. There's no ball movement. There's no set plays. There's no offense. And I look at Nick Nurse and I'm like, you know your faults. You know your weaknesses on this ball club. You know you're not a high percentage 3-point shooting team. You've got to have ball movement. I'm watching the other teams play, and they're moving the ball, even though they've got great players like Zach LaVine, like Bradley Beal. Those teams were moving the basketball, even though they have stars. So if you're a team with no stars, you have to move the basketball to create offense. To quickly on OG did create some offense. He did show some moves and some blow by, but he can't finish. For whatever reason, he was very hesitant to finish the play, and he wasn't going up like he should. He would hesitate, and he either got fouled or he got blocked because he was very, very tentative going to the rim. That has to change for the Raptors to have any success. Scott Barnes, a rookie, has easily been the most aggressive Raptor and on the team by a country mile. And if you're one of the Raptors in that locker room who's a veteran or has experience, you should be embarrassed by that.
Okay, can I just hit you up there on a couple things that you said before?
Can I just say one thing?
Take? What?
What veterans?
Okay, well.
Okay, so now here's the thing, Reece. What you were saying about the ISO ball. The issue I have on there, just to say it real quick, is I believe every time Gary Trent Jr. gets the ball, he just feels like he has to shoot. I'm not a fan of that. OG Anunoby, he's been, according to the box score, he's been showing out really well, but he didn't do jack all in that second half against Dallas Mavericks. Although the Raps were a little deterred in that second quarter to third quarter when the refs were just calling all the fouls, ticky-tacks, like Van Vliet.
Yeah, he got into foul trouble. That changed the game when he got into foul trouble.
And Barnes, they all got into foul trouble. So you're taking out the three best players you probably have on the court that can play. But I will say this, though, to answer that question, guys. 1 and 3, I do believe 3 and 1 could have happened.
Due to the depth that they have on the bench. They do have a bench mob. My problem is in their 3 losses, the first one, Nick Nurse only played 5 bench players. The third one against Dallas on the back-to-back, right, which is where they really needed the bench because the guys were gassed on their third game of the season. He only played 6. The other night, Monday night, when they played against Chicago, he only played 5. Those were all 3 losses. Okay? Now the Raptors, the team that they did destroy, divide, and conquer, was against the Boston Celtics. That was a +6 for the Raptors on point. Like, if you look at it, their bench really took it apart. They played 8 players that night. They finally got some guys into it, right? I would have loved to see Utah. I know he's still injured. You know, that's my guy. But the anchor for the bench, when he does step up, is Chris Boucher. And when he does step up, watch that bench and watch how deadly and lethal they can become. Because I do see a lot of potential in that bench. Now, but there is one bright, shining star within these last 4 games. And that has got to be the future of the Toronto Raptors. Mr. Number 4, getting drafted at number 4. Let's get it on with Scottie Barnes. He's killing the other rookies. He's up there. He's up there on the Raptors stats. Like, what is he with the Raptors? Like, look at what he is. He's second in points per game, third in rebounds in rebounds per game. He's third in minutes per game. This kid is showing up.
On the Raptors? This is on the Raptors?
Yeah, on the Raptors. He's actually, I do see a couple of faults on his defense. Skip, like you alluded to on the last episode. Sometimes he might be a little too eager and trying to jump in and leaving his man open for that open 3. I have seen that. But I do see a bright side to that with Scottie Barnes, and I think we got to take this season as a marathon and not as a sprint so far, because there is a lot of potential and a lot that can go on. So, Reece, what do you think about Scottie Barnes on the Raptors so far?
Scottie Barnes has been the best player on the team by a mile. He's averaged 16.8 points and 8.5 rebounds. The shock for me is only 1.3 assists, but that's a product of Nick Nurse not playing up at the point and sticking with Fred VanVleet, who had 17 assists the other night. We'll see how they use Scott Barnes going forward, but they're not. Nick Nurse is not in a rush to put him at point right now. He's shooting 56% from the field, by far leading the Raptors. It's not even close. He's been aggressive at the rim. He's finished plays at the rim, which no one else on the team has done. He's been excellent. Robert has been right. I will say this about my boy Robert, though. One thing, the 3-1, 1-3. The Raptors' defense led to good offense in the one win. Bad offense led to bad defense in the 3 losses. That's why they're 1-3. What do you think of Scott Barnes?
Just to correct you, actually, Kem Birch is beating him by 0.03%.
He's not taking the volume of shots, so I don't count him.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, I know, right? Neither is Isaac Bonga, who shoot it perfect.
Correct.
Yes, in 3 minutes. Okay, moving on.
Yes.
Skip,
Okay,
what do you think about Scottie?
So I think
compared to the other players that are on the Raptors.
Yeah, well, we could double back on the defense. I think defense is an interesting issue because I have seen him get beat a few times. I've definitely seen him get blown by. But at the same time, the Raptors are putting him on like really good offensive players, and they're putting him in spots where he's got to guard guys right off the jump. And like the amazing thing about Scottie Barnes is this guy was coming off the bench in college last year, and now he's the best starter on the Raptors in the NBA. Like, how does that happen? Like that's kind of mind blowing. Like you see this guy come. I mean, obviously he wasn't really a traditional bench player, but like
Tom Brady got drafted in the 6th round.
Devin Booker never started a game in college.
Yeah, I guess I just don't understand how these things happen. But that still blows my mind that this guy wasn't even a starter in college. But he's been terrific. I think, like you said, the scoring. He's shown a really good scoring touch in the paint. He's shown some really slick no-look passes. I think give it like a year or two, that's going to be a signature move. It's the no-look pass. I do think the reason they're not letting him run the point per se, I think there's a couple reasons. I think for one thing, his dribble is a little loose. When you compare it to a guy like Van Vliet, he does seem like he has a bit of a high dribble, and he has really struggled with turnovers this year in his limited minutes. So
as is Freddie.
No, but I mean, he's 13 turnovers. Like, let's not go crazy about this guy. Like, he's still young. He's still mistake prone. He's still going to throw the ball away a lot.
Yeah.
I absolutely think he can be a playmaker. I don't know if he's a traditional like point guard. He's point forward, right? Like, one of these guys who can wheel and deal from the top of the key, as opposed to maybe being the guy who holds the ball 24 seconds and takes the shot. But anyway, I think beyond the turnover issues, I mean, he's been terrific. I absolutely, in that game against, was it Dallas? I remember there were just these gaps where it was like OG and Freddie were off the floor, and then OG and Scottie were off the floor. And it was like, these 3 guys are the keystones. I don't care who else is on the floor. Like Gary Trent, yeah, he's going to hit some shots. He missed some shots. Like, it's not a big deal. But Scottie is going to determine how the game goes, the flow of the game. And the Raptors need to win. Like, the Raptors need to treat it like you got to win. You got to play even when Scottie's off the floor almost. And that's insane to be saying as like his 4th career game. Like that's I thought that would take like months or even a year or two based on the projections. Yeah. But he's there, he's ready. And on a team like this, that, like I said before, I don't think they're particularly good. They might be okay. I think this is the time to lean into his development and just be like, Scottie, go get him and see what you can become sooner rather than later, because we need you. And then obviously when Siakam comes back, this team can maybe be a little bit more of a fully formed animal at that point. But I'm really excited with what I've seen from Scottie. No regrets about the pick at this point. He's been great.
Hey, look at what he had to do. His first 4 games, he had to guard Bradley Beal. Then he had to guard Jason Tatum. Then he had to guard Luka the next night. And then he had to guard DeMar DeRozan. Despite all that, and despite the foul troubles, because he's still learning, like you said, Skip. I think this kid's doing amazing. Is there anybody else on the Raptors that can guard these guys, Reece?
Well, OG.
Well, OG can guard these guys. The biggest difference I saw between Barnes and OG was not finishing anything at the rim, and Barnes was, and that's the difference. OG obviously can hit some threes, where Scott Barnes can't. But
just real quick, defensively, I think OG is a lot stronger than Scottie when it comes to hanging with those guys.
At this point, yes.
Yeah.
But he's got young legs, though. So, So guys, I guess we can say that even though the Raptors are off to a slow start, we do see some positives. We just exposed some of the negatives. So, Andrew Reece, since you've been on the show a lot, and since you have your own show, apparently you have something for us. So I'm going to turn the reins over to you, my friend.
Yes. My first question is to Skip with how embarrassing the guard position was for the Raptors this past week. What do you do if you're Simon Nurse and who do you put out there for the guard position after that embarrassing display by our guards?
Well, I don't get all the Van Vliet hate. I think Van Vliet is overexposed right now. He needs he needs to play with a better supporting cast. He needs to be not in the role he's in right now. But I think he's done some good things. He's obviously had rough games, rough stretches. Like I'm not saying he's been perfect, but I don't think he's the problem. I think Gary Trent, he is what he is. He's a shooter. He's a gunner. He's going to come in. He's going to make shots. He's going to miss shots. You know, whatever happens, happens. When it comes to Dragic, he's definitely struggled quite a bit. I don't know if the solution is to play him more and try to get him back into a rhythm or to just drop him from the rotation altogether, but he's definitely struggled. I think obviously Dalano Banton, even Nick Nurse said in the last presser, they were asking about Malachi and he was like, I think you guys should be asking me about Dalano. Like he's
that's
really well. And
accurate.
That's legit because he plays the way that the team wants to play. They want to be long. They want to be big. He plays fast. He plays in transition, and he's done a really good job of flipping the script in a couple of games when he's come in so far. So I think we're definitely going to see some more of Dalano taking, I would say, Goran's minutes, or maybe some of those other like eeny weeny minutes of where Spy Mihalik's taking them or whatever. I think we're definitely going to see more Dalano at some point. And then the big question that everyone's asking is where the hell is Malachi Flynn? And it seems clear at this point that Nick Nurse has just decided that he's not good enough and that he's not his go-to guy. And that was kind of clear to me in the preseason with some of the minutes distributions where you'd see Malachi coming in the second half of a preseason game or something, or subbing in the fourth quarter. And you'd be like, I thought this guy was our first round draft pick. I thought he was going to get some run this year. So it's clear that Nick Nurse doesn't really trust Malachi. I'm not that surprised based on what I saw in Summer League and preseason. I do think that based on the way this year looks like it might be going, if it's tough, right? Because we still think it's early, like this team could get back to 500, Pascal could come back, they could be like a competitive team. But if you're in sort of a rebuild phase, like a true rebuild phase, then you're going to need to be playing guys like Malachi Flynn over guys like Goran Dragic. That's just, you need to see what you got, because if he's going to be buried, like, you're probably not going to offer him a contract next year.
Right.
So I think at some point he's going to work his way into the rotation. I think right now Nick Nurse is just trying to find those 7 or 8 guys he trusts and try to be competitive. And Malachi's not in that mix right now. And Dalano is. So I think Dalano's the guy.
I think the way Scott Barnes is playing, when Siakam comes back, Nurse is going to have no choice but to put him at point guard, because there's no way you can put Scott Barnes on the bench, and that leaves you with Barnes, Van Vliet, Siakam, OG, and one of Birch or Achua. I don't think you have any other choice when Siakam. You cannot put Scott Barnes on the bench at this point. He's too good.
The only thing I would say is maybe you bring the bigs off the bench and play OG at center. I don't know. It's a tough call.
Yeah, we're kind of in a holding pattern until Pascal comes back and until OG. He was indifferent. He was good and bad, mostly kind of bad. We're in a holding pattern with him and Siakam right now.
OG.
Okay, so what do you got for me, Reece?
Oh yeah.
So, yes. So, very important. Skip, you might want to chime in on this one as well. So, King, Chef Curry or Chef Brian?
Depends. If I gotta hit switches all day, it's Curry. If I gotta cook, it's me. Chef.
Are you sure about that?
And you know you're gonna cook with curry powder too.
That's right.
Oh, come on, man! You guys know I'm Trinity. You know I'm brown. It's all curry all the time. You guys know I could cook that in my sleep. But you know what? To give credit where credit is due, Steph Curry. To me, I see him as one of the front runners so far to become MVP for the season.
He's the MVP right now, without question.
Oh, there's no question. Look at what he's doing with that team.
Yeah.
Can you imagine him on the Raptors at point guard? You know what I mean? Like, it's a different story.
No love
That
for
guy's a
DeMar DeRozan.
transcender. Yeah, that guy's a
Or no
transcender.
votes?
He's
I'm
an
just
innovator.
kidding.
He can change the game. He can put up the points. He pushes the pace, right? You got to watch him. You got to double him. Even when he's coming off the back screens, it screws up the back screens, especially when he does that curl across the baseline and comes back up top. You got to watch it. I'm really loving what I'm seeing from Chef Curry right now, right? And plus, not to mention him as a person, how he keeps his head humble, keeps his mind nice. He's still a nice guy. He's still very approachable. I do enjoy that from him. But when it comes to cooking the damn food, come and see me.
All right, I got you. Yes, the Golden State to me is the favorite in the West, but we'll talk about that another time.
Favorite? No, not favorite. I mean, they might be good, but I don't think
it's not the Lakers, Skip. No, it's not the Lakers.
You know who might be least valuable player is Russell Westbrook, but we'll get into that.
We'll get into that in another episode.
We'll get into another episode. But this has been a fun conversation. We're only 4 games deep into the season, ladies and gentlemen. Right? There's really not that much to tell. It's a marathon, not a sprint, like I said. So let's see how this plays out, and especially due to the injuries with the other teams, the Eastern Conference and East Conference, surprising us with some of the top teams not having a great record and some of the other teams having a better record, right? Let's not get into that. But this has been a great conversation between the two of you. Andrew Reece from the Reece Report, Twitter, Mouth of the North. Skip, aka Simon Broder, simonbroder.com. Amazon.ca, go buy the book. You guys can find me, King Hussein, on all social media platforms. You guys can find us. Go down there, click subscribe, click like, leave us some juicy comments. Tell Andrew what you think. To the Point Raps on Twitter. To the Point on Instagram and Facebook. So, guys, since we're not in the top 75, let's get out of here. On behalf of myself, Skip and Reece, good afternoon, good morning, good evening, good night, and
peace.